All right, hello and welcome everyone. Good to see a number of folks jumping into the room. Welcome. And I've got my good friend here, Dan Denzin from Sunlight Solar. Dan, good to see you again.
My pleasure, yeah.
We were joking a little bit that got a very serious profile picture, and I know you are a serious operator, but I also know how much passion you have, and I'm excited that we're going to have a bit of fun today talking about your story and your journey.
Will be great. Will be great. Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Okay, awesome. Well, before we get into that, I want to spend the first 5 to 8 minutes just setting a little bit of context. I know something that's really exciting about these sessions. This is the second one that we're running, the Customer Innovation Spotlight series. Is that we have both a number of folks who are exploring Scoop and this idea of an operations hub. What does that look like? What does it mean? And maybe a little bit new, right, to what we're going to explore today. And then we also have a number of customers in the room, folks who are using Scoop every day and asking this question: what are other operational leaders doing? How are they using Scoop really successfully? And it's something that I know our community of customers has been asking for, is how can we bring this community of operational leaders, sales leaders together to have these conversations. And so I think for us, we want to keep coming back to the table, right, and talking about these things, opening up the floor and the space, and having really the immense privilege to bring folks like Dan, yourself, on to share a little bit of your story. And so that is all of the journey that we get to go through today. And to that point, I'm going to spend about 5 minutes here introducing Scoop for those of you who may be a little bit new to the role that we're playing in the industry right now. We are then going to get to have this great, deep dive conversation with Dan and the journey that you and Sunlight have been on. And then what's really exciting is we get to hand the reins over to you, Dan, and you're going to bring us into your Scoop operations hub and give us a couple of the highlights, right? Some of the things that you've really appreciated as you all have gone on this incredible growth journey. And then at the end, one of the things I want to call out for everyone in the room is that we have my colleagues Frida and Lucy here. And first of all, hats off to both of you, because you are the reason we are all gathered here today. All of the hard work to get this experience coordinated. Lucy and Frida are also here to answer any questions that you all have throughout the session. So use the Q&A to ask your questions, and then we'll actually have a dedicated time at the very end to go through some of the questions. And we'll obviously put those, as many as we can, to Dan to get as much out of this session as possible. From a really high level perspective, so the 10,000 foot story of Scoop, right, is that we, 7-8 years ago, we really saw this opportunity to build a dedicated software technology and ultimately an operations hub for the renewable energy industry, right? All of the companies that are installing and servicing this growing demand of electrification, right? Of upgrading all of our infrastructure. And frankly, this is globally, right? This is why all of us are in the room here today. And so we are really, passionate about understanding how can we support you all and your journey, and how do we continue to build the right tools and technology to do that. Now, one of the things you're going to hear us say, and I'm sure Dan will share this as well, is we do not believe that there is one tool, one piece of software that will solve all of your problems, right? That they're like this kind of monolithic, all-in-one mythical idea of a technology tool. We just don't believe it exists in this industry for the work that we're trying to do. And so we have two additional products, this ecosystem that we provide the industry and the market. So Glue is our integration platform. We're working and have now connected Scoop to about 500 to 600 other cloud-based tools. So we really want to make it easy to move data in and out of Scoop, that operations hub, as your other systems of record need to be updated, need to be communicating back and forth. The goal is to not have humans do this, right? But we leverage APIs and integrations. And then Looksy is our business intelligence and analytics reporting platform. And I know, Dan, this is something that you've kind of just more recently gotten your hands on and are really excited about. And the goal for us, the vision, is that while Scoop is going to manage all of the day-to-day, the operations, the transactional work that needs to be documented, needs to be done right the first time, Looksy is that same kind of special purpose type of platform, but for management, for the executive, so that we can aggregate all of that connected data, but visualize it in a way that helps us make better business decisions. So we'll get to cover a lot of that ground in the conversation today, but wanted to just provide kind of a framework of where do we sit in the market, right? What are we focused on doing? I'm going to speak a little bit to this slide, and we're not going to go down too far into the weeds, but I think for us at Scoop, we've had this question, right, that has been growing over time, which is, why is it so challenging to grow and scale these types of businesses that we're building in a repeatable, profitable, and sustainable way, right? That really is at the crux of a lot of what we're trying to solve in the industry, and certainly why I think it's been such a privilege to hear Dan and the story of Sunlight Solar. Part of what we see is, there's so much going on in the project and service execution work that we're doing out in the field, across everything from residential solar up to the utility scale projects. And ultimately, a lot of the software that has been developed over the past 20 years doesn't necessarily take these things into consideration. And so I want to use this visual as maybe a bit of an anchor for you all to go back and ask questions and kind of dive further into your businesses as you're thinking about, how do I build my operations hub? And specifically, I want you to think about 3 things on the operations side of your business, which are, how do you equip your in-house or your office teams with the right views across all those different folks, right? From project coordination, permitting, design, engineering, scheduling, dispatch, maybe QA/QC, construction management. Ultimately, like, even though it's an office team, everyone's doing a lot of different things. And so we need to consider, how do we set everyone up with the right focused view, so I know what's coming into my backlog, I know the work I need to get done, and I know how to move it off my plate onto the next person, into the next team, or onto the next person. The second thing is, we all know that the way that this industry is evolving is with an incredibly fluid workforce, or a dynamic workforce. You're going to have subcontractors down at the individual level. You might be working with EPC or sales partners. And the more connected we can bring these third parties in, the more efficient we can be as an internal operation and as a business. The challenge is that, existing tools don't always make it easy, right? Whether you're paying per seat on a licensing perspective, maybe you don't have the permissions and access control to let someone in at a project level, or even at a single install phase of a single project. And so thinking about, how do we equip our subcontractors and our third parties with access to our operations hub in the right context, with the right levels of control, access, and permission, another really important consideration. And then finally, we all exist, right? We're all here because we are out in the field, we are out in the world upgrading this infrastructure, right? This energy infrastructure globally. But ultimately, what that means is that most of our team, maybe up to 50, 80%, are not sitting in front of a computer, with a desk for 40, 50 hours a week. They're all over the place, right? They're mobile, and they're moving from job site to job site, maybe even from field to office. And so we need to think about, how do we equip all of those folks with an extension of our operations hub in the field on that native device, whether it's a tablet or some type of phone, with things like, hey, that phone needs to be able to go offline and not allow that, or basically ensure that technician or installer doesn't miss a beat, right? So even in that whole summary, there's a lot of complexity, and part of the challenge why it can be really hard in finding the right tools and building that right operations hub to scale all of those processes. And then the last thing that I want to call out on this slide is, if you look to the left-hand side, we also need to think about, how do we get data out of our operations hub, right? Because we believe that there's probably 3 or 4 other really important systems, whether it's your sales CRM, your ERP, maybe your accounting tool, your design and proposal or contract management platforms. And we need to start thinking about building integrations, leveraging technology, or APIs in this case, versus putting that burden on our team, on humans, right? And that's kind of the world that we're starting to move into. And so also thinking about that integration story on the left-hand side is another really important piece of the puzzle, I think, as we continue to grow and evolve. And so I'll pause there, and we'll actually maybe use this as a bit of our backdrop to hear about some of the things that you all have navigated, Dan, in your journey. And with that, I actually want to shift gears. Dan, bring you into the room. It's enough of me talking. And Dan, I would love to, maybe as a starting point for all of us here, bring us all the way back to the beginning of your journey at Sunlight Solar, and how and why and kind of where you came into the organization, and maybe some of those first like challenges or opportunities that you saw as you came into the business.
Sounds great. Sounds great. First of all, thank you for the introduction. And I would say like that if you had this presentation a couple of years ago, it would be much easier to convince me, man. It's very good. It's very good.
Awesome.
So, well, talking about our journey and our grow experience, a little bit about ourselves. So I am here from like almost 4 years, and I came here to develop the sales team, develop the sales department. My main goals were like create some strategies, create some foundations, develop some process, but mainly bring sales guys to work for us. And to do that, the main point is like increase the confidence level. So this is a family-owned and family-operated company, and we know that when we go through this moment to grow, it's complicated. It's complicated. You have a lot of barriers, a lot of problems, and I believe that the main challenge that we had to grow, I would say that we had three main problems to solve. The first one was like communication, our internal and external communication. We had to talk better with our customers, keep our customers updated. So this was a very, very big challenge to accomplish. The second challenge that we had was database. As everybody knows, when you start growing, every single person in the office has a different control, a different platform, a different database, a spreadsheet, a document, a piece of paper, and everything was spread out, and we were not able to put everything together. So data was a big problem. And another point that I would like to mention is like workflow control. When I came here and we started to develop this grow and put more deals inside of the company, we realized that we didn't have any kind of control to track the steps of the process. So we were losing like a little bit of the control. We are losing the projects, putting projects on limbo situation, and we were not able to find what was going on. So this was the moment that we start to look for some tools. So it was necessary because my main goal was create a sales strategy. We did that. In 6 months to a year, we were ready like to put more sales and more sales. We came from like 10 sales a month to 50, 60, 70 a month, and then we start to break the project workflow. So this was the main the key points of this journey.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I want to let's stay on the sales side just for a second, because I think this is, especially right now in the macro environment and all of that, it is a really important conversation, right? Of like, how do I build that sales organization? How do we go to market? How do we grow on the top end of the business? And so, I think I remember in some of our conversations, Dan, there's one way to do it. Just like hire a bunch of sales folks or contract a bunch of sales folks, sign up with a bunch of partners, and then just like almost throw more bodies at it. My sense is you've been a little bit more calculated, right? Sunlight Solar, in terms of like thinking about, okay, well, how are we going to grow? What's going to happen? What tools do we need? Can you maybe just talk about like one or two of the big changes that you all made from a strategic perspective, or the big questions that you asked and addressed, even as you were starting that growth of like 10, 20, 30, 40 sales per month? What was the most important keys to that?
So just for you guys to understand what we were talking about growth, like 3 years ago, we were like more or less 30 guys in the office, putting all together office and installers. We were like 3-4 sales reps. We were selling more or less 10 projects a month, and installing a couple projects from some partners as well. So and this was during COVID, so it was a tough time. Everybody faced that. But 2 years later, we were like more than a double. We have right now, just for you guys to have an idea, we have in office plus techs in the field like 100 plus guys, more than 150 sales reps selling for us. We just moved to a new facility here, with 22,000 square feet in downtown Orlando. And we are installing, as you said, we are installing something around 100, 120 projects a month. But this is part of the passion, because the founder of the company has more than 50 years experience in solar. He started like in South America, like designing and producing solar water heaters on the 70s, so 50 years ago or so. And he moved to other countries, and then he came here to US 30 years ago, and then he found sunlight more or less 20 years ago. So solar is not only like a moment for us. This is our background. This is our life. So when I came, the company was like thirsty for full projects. They were very, very good, and we know that Sunlight it's in the market as a very, very good installer. But we were installing projects for other companies, and the goal was like, we need to sell our own projects. We need to do the full process. So the first thing that we had to do was like change a little bit the mindset, change a little bit the culture, because we can be a very good installer, but to be a turnkey company from the sales to the PTO, it's a little different. It's very different when you were talking about a family-owned and operated company that you want to put them on a spot as a corporation. You know, you have to change mainly the mindset. So it's a fun story, because I came to Sunlight as a customer. I received a proposal from Sunlight to put solar on my house, and I asked too many questions, I think. And they told me, okay, I think that we can use you more than you can use us. You can use me. So I came like a couple of years ago as a customer, and then we start this process to create like a more professional environment. And my first point was, okay, do you want to sell solar? Do you want to go to the market to sell solar? So you need first a professional proposal, an accurate proposal, and you have to answer all the questions that your customers have. So you need to train your sales team on the right way. And I changed the mindset of the company based on a rule that I have for my life that I learned with my dad. That is like, do not promise anything that you cannot deliver, but do not let your customer without anything that you promised. So this is a key point for me. So it was tough, but here we are.
and there's some like really, you know, in some ways, I think there's times where we can get overwhelmed, right, and just all the things that are going on. But what I've really always appreciated about you, Dan, is you also are keeping track of, I think, some of these really core principles. One of them, which you just mentioned, is our sales team in this case, and we'll talk about operations and production in a second, but like they need to have, like, it can't be in people's heads out doing what they want to do and like in a bunch of disconnected systems. There has to be a process, right? It has to move through the same set of steps, and the sales teams have to be equipped with really quality you know, SOPs and documentation and like talk tracks and scripts to be able to go out and have that repeatable process also, so that you can grow, you know, continue to grow. I think the other thing that you've been really mindful of is what's gonna break as we continue to grow, right? And like being 3 or 4 steps ahead of that, versus just saying, let's just see how much, you know, how many contracts we can sell, and then let's keep kind of increasing that as we go. And I think that speaks a little bit to, you know, you fast forward in that first year and a half, and you've now doubled, almost tripled the top of the funnel, right, coming into production. And then you started to notice a lot of these challenges in operations, and you all, like, kudos to the whole team at Sunlight, because it sounds like at some point you really made that conscious, intentional decision to go downstream and say, okay, we've done this in sales. Now let's go and let's figure out how do we, really level up our operations, our processes, and our systems in the production side of the business. And that, that's a big decision.
This was the moment. Yeah, this was the moment that we start to sell more and more, and then we
tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, we start to crash the operations, right? And then we decide, okay, we have to find a tool. And as you said, it's impossible to find a perfect tool. We look for a couple options, and my goal was, okay, if I have like 10 challenges, I have to fix like 7 to 9. It will not be possible to do everything that I can in one tool. And then when I found Scoop, you brought answers for my 3 main challenges: communication, workflow, and database. This was the start point. So when I saw that I could have this, and at the same time I could have customizations, and this got like, I fell in love. I fell in love because as a software developer in the past, a couple of years ago, a lot of years ago, I'd say, it's very hard to rely on the developers from your partner. You don't have time to do that. So when you are designing your process inside of the tool, you need to have freedom to work with all the tools that you have. And this is one of the main points for me. I could find on Scoop a very, very good way to grow, to implement my process inside of the tool, with your support, of course, but without your I don't need your full time with me. And now it's very good to me because I came back to sales after 1 year and something, like developing all these operations, and I can see my guys here using the tool on the same way, understanding how the tool works. And it's normal because there's no perfect process as well. You will change your process very often. You will change your structure, you change users, you change who is doing what, and you need to have like different pathways to improve your process all the time. So this is very, very common.
Yeah, and I love, because like if we go back, I know you were mentioning, like, as you all have gone through this growth journey, at some point, somewhat early on, it sounds like you started to identify these kind of 3, there may be a list of 10 important things, but there's a list of 3 that like we've got to get right. And I think I wrote them down, like organization, so like data organization, communication, and workflow, right? Structuring those things. And so, finding that Scoop had those. But then what I think, it's almost like the X factor or the magic was this realization that those things are going to change over time, especially if we're growing. It's a guarantee that they're going to change and evolve.
Yes.
And the only way that I can keep up with what we've built so far is if I can evolve the system, right? The streamlined process really in a system capacity versus like telling people to remember in their heads. And that maybe was a bit of the X factor that you found in the configuration side of Scoop.
Definitely. And of course, it's very important to mention that this transformation, this implementation is not easy. It's never easy.
Yeah.
You will find a lot of barriers. You will find a lot of that common phrase that we always hear, like, oh, it was always like this, why we are changing. This is very common. So comfort zone is something that you face, and sometimes, unfortunately, you need to replace like team members. You need to change process, to move people around, to make it work, and like shake the guys and change the mindset as well. So for us, took like almost 6 months to convince everybody, and mainly the board of the company. You need to convince the board of the company, otherwise the teams, the crew will not be okay with that. So it was very tough. But when we found a reliable platform, when we found a platform that allows you to move forward fast because you are able to customize, you are able to change, is much easier to do that. Otherwise, the user will find a barrier and say, oh, this is not going to work for me. And you like have to wait a week or two or a month to have something change on your side. It's not going to work.
Yeah, it's interesting because like I think and again there's a lot in what you just shared. I think one thing maybe I'll explicitly call out is the lengths that the team Sunlight Solar has gone to get leadership alignment and executive alignment, and those conversations aren't easy, right? And they take time. But the fact that you did that, right, it almost it opens up the door to say, okay, well, now we've got a shot to bring everyone, we've got the momentum from the top, we can now bring everyone on board. But that doesn't mean, I remember in one of our conversations a while ago, you kind of mentioned you will find folks, and this is normal human behavior, that will build walls, right? They will build walls to protect themselves versus be open to change. And one of the answers, which is challenging when we experience growth, is that sometimes there's a parting of ways. But I'd love to hear, Dan, like have you found, or what have you found that's helped to encourage and show the teams, we're listening to you, we're going to bring your feedback in, we're going to make sure this is working for you, to like really get that adoption? Like, have you seen stories where you've been able to make progress on that with the teams out in the field, in the office?
Yeah, definitely. There is a lot of stories that we could share, but I would say that first of all, they start to realize when we start to get some very, very good feedbacks from our customers. So in the beginning, we were struggling receiving like emails saying, oh, I don't know what's going on with my project. I don't have any feedback. I don't have any follow-up. I don't know what is the steps or what is the stage. I am a little blind and lost. And after that, and this is directly connected with the communication, the external communication. When we start to receive feedback from our customers, like, thank you, I appreciate that you sent me these engineering drawings, and it was not me, it was the software. It's just like a gate, a trigger, and the file was there. And when we achieved that milestone, the system sent an auto email to the customer. And I have this for like almost 12 steps right now that the customer is keeping informed, and this is very good. So I would say that as soon as we start to receive these feedbacks, attach it with good reviews, attach it with referrals, then my executives starts to see, okay, there's something here that I was not measuring, and this is very, very good.
Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry,
Yeah,
I don't
no,
know.
and I was just wondering and thinking here that another like fun story was when I was sending you separating some photos to put on your slides. I got to the point that I found a video on our Christmas party last year. The company that was recording the Christmas party, they interviewed a couple of employees. And I stopped for a second to watch this video and listen to these guys, and I got emotional because it was incredible how the employees they came back to us with very, very good feedbacks. They now are more comfortable. Yeah, they are more comfortable working because the streamline is clear. So there is no like black points. It's just like do your job and like upload the photos. For example, the technicians goes to the field, prepared that they do the job, they do the installation, and they took photos based on like a script that they have to follow. And like instantly we have a manager here overlooking everything and calling them, okay, perfect, awesome job, guys. Thank you. You are good to go. So everything works very smooth right now. And it was like before, it was a constant like headache, a constant pain, thinking about, okay, am I missing something? Is there something that is like I'm losing? You still fighting with your mind, with your memory, saying there's something wrong. I am missing something. You go home thinking, okay, I don't know what's going on. And now everybody works like more relieved. This
There's
is
a
awesome.
I love that, and what I thought of is there is a probably large group of operational leaders, that are really aspiring to this type of sustainable growth. But the comment, that might be shared is like the constant text message or messaging thread that you cannot get away from, because there's that fear of like we're dropping a ball somewhere. And
Exactly.
John at ARP said something very similar in our last session of, to get over that hump and to now feel like I know there's one source of truth, everyone's connected, and we've done all the hard work over months to get everyone bought in. I mean, that's a really amazing accomplishment. And again, the kudos is to all of you. But what's also interesting to me, just maybe a last call out, and then I've got one more question, then I'll transition us, is, in some ways, the outcomes that you all have worked to achieve are very simple, right? In terms of the measurable, things that you all have accomplished, satisfied customers, customer referrals, and exponentially almost 10x more projects coming through that you're still achieving that with. Amazing outcome. The other one is employees and a team and a culture that is excited to be there, empowered to show up every day. And I just want to call out the amount of work that you all have done to get there, right? A lot of what we're talking about in these little minutia of workflows and updating the process and having the right checklist for the right technician, it's all the little work, but ultimately doing all of those things gets to this point where you've got happy customers that are doing a lot of the work of generating new business for you. And you've got a really empowered team and team experience. So maybe
let me do a parenthesis here. So
please.
It's fun because everything that I'm saying here is based on my point of view, because I am the guy in charge of the sales department. So for me, happy customers, referrals are my main goal. But when we look the software and the growth and the journey on the different point of view, like my VP of operations, what they want to see, like quality. They want to see projects without hiccups. And how we do that, like if you have information, if you have a very fast process, and this is something that we didn't mention, but it was improved a lot. So you don't need to wait a manual trigger, for the next person to move. So with the software, with the workflow, it was one of our pain. So we had the problem with the workflow, and this caused a lot of delays. So right now the process is smooth and is fast. So my operations guys, they will see that in a different point of view. And if I talk to my financial guys, they will see in a different view either. They will say, okay, can I get funded faster?
That's right.
Exactly.
That's right.
So this is how it goes. So it's important because it's a tool that came to help everybody in different ways.
Yeah. Well said. Well, on that point, let's transition a little bit here. And again, I think just to put this in context, because one thing again with Sunlight Solar is it's a relatable story, right? 4 years ago, 10 installations. You're now at the point, over 100 folks in the office, 200 sales reps in different capacities, consultants, 22,000 square foot office that you just moved into, 120-ish, 150 installs per month. And so let's look at, some of the things, Dan, that you've really come to appreciate in the Scoop platform, in your actual workspace, to really maybe connect some of the conceptual pieces that you've shared so far. And like I mentioned, I'll just spend 2 or 3 really short minutes for anyone who's going to be seeing, the Scoop Operations Hub for the first time, a couple of slides on what you're seeing. And so the first one, really simple but important, which is in Scoop, we care a lot about the relationship between the data that's being captured and stored. And we think about this as our data architecture. And, specifically in Scoop, every job site, if you think about the customer or client having a physical location, in Scoop, we just simply call those client sites. And anything that's relevant for that physical location, think about jurisdiction, AHJ information, maybe physical structural site information, that all can get stored up here at the client site. And then you can attach or create any type of project, and we have, again, like Dan, you've already been raving about, but like the ability to build any project template, right? If you're going from solar into EV or battery or home electrification, the ability to build that process starting at the project layout level is really important. And then you can simply take a project template like a Resi solar install, attach it to a client site. And then I think where it gets really exciting for I know you and I especially is now we go down one more layer and we say, okay, well, for my Resi solar installation, what does the process look like? What are the phases? And what is every granular and minute step within, say, the site survey or design or permitting or install? And in our platform, we call each of these kind of modular self-contained components of work, we call them scoops. And so a scoop not only is going to pull in all of the relevant context from that site, from the project, it's also going to provide the checklist, right? The mandatory requirements. And then underneath that, it's going to start to house all of the internal and external communication, whether that's the team collaborating, or maybe like Dan was mentioning, an automated email being sent to the customer once a certain milestone or what we would call a workflow stage is being triggered. So this is kind of the relationship that we see on the data side. Really important. A small point, but an example of why that's important, just to play it out one step further, is we see customers that after they do that solar install or EV battery install, etc., there may be a point in the future where you have to go back and service that site. And if it's 2-3 years down the road, the ability to pull every single data point from the client and the project into that service ticket for the technician and for the office team versus them trying to have to sort through the various folders and structures to find that data to like support the technician when they go on site, add that up over dozens and maybe hundreds of service tickets. And that's really where we're talking about this sustainable, scalable growth. So that's the first slide. Second one, very simple, is just simply that, and I wanted to pull this in here because it's been such a huge area of leverage for you, Dan, is this no code, no developer needed configuration environment, where if our process in the field changes today, maybe we have a new piece of equipment, it needs to be serviced slightly differently or be installed slightly differently, different documentation requirements. I can literally go into my Scoop configuration environment today, make those changes, publish the changes, and see those in the field, within minutes of that going live. And so this idea that we have a configuration mode and we have a live execution environment where all of our teams are in. I know we're going to maybe jump back and forth between those. So just wanted to share that briefly. And with that, Dan, I'll hand it over to you maybe to take us away. Take us into the Sunlight Scoop account and a couple of examples you want to share.
This is a very good idea. Let me do that following exactly the same lead that you gave us. Perfect. So let me share my screen here. Can you guys see my screen well? Perfect. Excellent. Yeah. And we've got your document open right now. And then okay, I think we just saw your Scoop account. Yeah, maybe flip them over. There you go. Is that okay? Yeah, and we got your Scoop view open here. Perfect. Great. So for example, we have different ways to use Scoop, and different users have different pages that they will look more often, that they will feel more comfortable. For example, this is one of my favorites. This is the project view. So the project view, it's perfect for project management. So on the project managers, they will be able to see all the projects separate by phases, and they can see like some KPIs here, how long this process is on this stage, who is the leader of this stage, what is going on. So they can see a more macro view. And one of the things that I like the most is like, you can have tons of filters. You can see, for example, if I have a project manager that just takes care of one customer, one account, one third-party partner that send us installations, this guy doesn't need to see everything that we have on the database. This guy can see just, for example, we install for power, and the project manager for power will be able to see just the projects that it's related with power. So this project view with everything, you can see projects by status, it's active, it's inactive, project by organization, by structure, a project by phase. So you can do whatever you want, and you can save these filters. So you can have multiple filters saved, and you don't need to apply these filters every single time. So what will happen here is basically the user will set up the environment for his daily basis job, for this daily basis work. And when you go to a specific user, the specific user will be able to see, for example, I want to see, I am Gabriel, for example, I want to see everything that is under my responsibility right now. So I can have just a very, very quick view about what I need to take care on my daily basis. I don't need to lose my time or lose my attention seeing projects that's not related with me. It's not attached with me. So this is very good. But to come to this point, we have to go to the backstage. The backstage is the most impressive thing on Scoop for me, because the backstage is where you will be able to develop your process. So let me give you an example. So when I go to the configurations and I go to the apps, as you were saying, Tyro, this is the macro stages. These are the what we call scoops. It's one box. So my project, my template will have multiple boxes, multiple scoops, multiple stages in different orders, depending the template that I am using. But in this case, for example, I am talking about a residential installation that I have in contract, then site survey, then design and engineering, then permit. And let's go to installation, for example. Installation will have here all the database that I can control what I want to see, but mainly, and this is the most important part, I have the workflow. I have a full chart that I will transcript to Scoop language in a very, very user-friendly environment that will tell me, okay, this stage can transition from this and can transition to this, can come from this and can go to this. And we can do that like freely. So for example, we have a regular workflow for installation. As soon as I have the definition of the date, okay, installation date is scheduled, then I have to request material, then I have to check if the material was received, then I will have to send my technicians outside to install. When I do that, for example, when I place a product order, a purchase order to my partner, to my supplier, it will be another building. When they send the material to my warehouse, will be another building. So when we do this 100% automatically, we cut a lot of edges. We cut a lot of delays. So it's 100% like open your app, it will be there. You are the leader of this stage, do your job and move forward. It's like hot potato game, you know? Get the hot potato, do you need to do and move forward. And then we control everything, every single timestamp. You receive this, you took like 1, 2, 3 days, doesn't matter, to perform your job, we will measure that. And we will see where we have the delays. So this is 100% like customizable. And this is awesome. And when we go every single stage here, every single step inside of stage, a micro step, we can open here and we can say, okay, I want to do some automations. I want to create, let me get one here that has a couple, or like this one. We have 8 automations presetted. So I have auto emails, auto tasks, so I can inform internally, okay, we did that. So please take a look and do your part. For example, we have to collect fundings. So as soon as we achieve a milestone, shoot an email internally to somebody that is responsible for that. Okay, do your job. I will not stop the project. It's not a gate, but it's a task that will be be doing at the same time. And that comes to another point that makes me like very, very happy working with you guys. You guys are always very open to our ideas and to our needs. When we bring to you some challenges, you always are open to listen. And then here we have something that was done a couple months ago, I would say like a year ago, that was awesome. I came to you guys and I told, okay, I love the tasks, but I need to have a conditional task. I need to have a task that will have a logic behind the task, because we have to keep in
give us an
mind.
example.
Yeah, the software needs to be like easy for the user. The user needs to feel comfortable with the software, needs to be reliable. So let's have an example here. Let's say that I have the funding process is good. I have a process that I need to request funding from a bank, but different banks, they have different funding process. Sometimes you have to request in one certain milestone. For that bank, you have to do different. You have to provide different documents. So what we did, we create like conditional tasks for funding. So instead of have like 10 tasks for 10 different projects, talking to my user, okay, check if this project is from this bank and do this. And then they have to receive 10 emails to maybe take an action in one or two. They will not trust the software because they will receive tons and tons and tons of notifications that will not
start ignoring it.
Exactly. And they will ignore the important ones. So with the conditional test, we will be more like chirurgical. We will be more like pointed. And we will be good to send an email saying, okay, you were receiving this because a condition, it was like true. It was okay. So you were just receiving this because it's ready to go. You have to do something. So right now we have tons of conditions, like based on electric company, based on lender, based on counties. Some counties have different inspection process, so we don't need to trigger the head of inspections if it is not the right moment for that county. So if it is this county, do this. If it is that county, do that. So we create tons of conditional tasks, and this is working very, very, very good. So amazing. When we go to like the environment, this is basically what I like more, and what I love to share with you guys. You have mainly a process designed by yourself, and it's not hard. This is not hard. As you said, it's easy to develop on the first time, and it's easy to change. And once you have this done, the user will be more comfortable. They will receive the right information on the right time for the right process.
Well said. I know we have a couple minutes left here, and wanted to get a sense, and you don't have to, Dan, but is there a look-see dashboard or anything on that side that you think would be worth sharing, just to kind of bring us up one level to that like macro reporting view?
Okay, let me pull up my look-see here.
One other thing while you're doing that I really appreciate is, you know, obviously you all have done so much work in your Scoop account, in that operations hub. But I think, you know, I've definitely gotten the picture that it's happened over time. And even if we look at those workflows, like you've got lots of workflow automations, and I'm sure you're continuing to layer them in. But what I also appreciate is it's almost like this transition into an operations hub like Scoop is you take, okay, the first thing is like, well, when I hand off to my utility, you know, application team member or permit application team member, they're not even getting it because like the handoff is coming through an email or a text message. So let's move that into a workflow to automate it. The next thing is, well, that process looks different based on whether it's a job here or a job there. So let's move the next layer in. Let's add a condition on top of that workflow. You know, so sequentially, you're just slowly layering in more and more of that as you hear. And I think that's maybe the benefit of being able to like maybe start a little more simple, but layer in the automations definitely. As you go.
The page that I share with you guys is complex because we are improving this every single day for the past 2 years. So we definitely will start simple, but it's important to start. You have to start at some point. So yeah, let me do very, very quick 2 comments about like Loxy and Glue, the other platform that you have and I didn't mention. We started using Glue, and this was a game changer because we created, with your help, some integrations with Aurora, that is our design software, and with DocuSign, that is our contract installation agreement signature program software. So we create these two automations using Glue, and right now we have 100% of the data flowing from one platform to another without the user losing time, losing like sometimes they lose attention and they make mistakes. And we speed up the process overall. So we have the sales rep in-house, we have the design done. As soon as the customer is good to go, is basically two buttons, click, process, and workflow, and everything. All the data is already there. We don't need to retype. So Glue is a very, very important tool, and we now are increasing our usage of Glue. We are planning to have integration with QuickBooks, our accounting software, to avoid more retyping and the time that we are losing. Okay, but when it comes to Loxy, as you said, we are babies. We are babies using Loxy. We are now excited with the tool, and we are starting to use a little bit more and more, creating more reports, having more internal and meetings with your team development to help us to create. But let me show you a couple options. For example, this is a complete install report that I can see the amount of projects that we installed. This is last year, so I can change here for this year, for example, and I can see the amount of installs that we completed through Scoop year, month over month, per county. We just serve Florida, so we have a map showing where these installs are located. When we go to like Scoop dashboard, I like a lot this one, for example, that shows me how many scoops I have open per stage. So I can track what is going on, the amount of projects that I have per stage. And the one that we are using more like now, right now, is this one. The weekly report has this graphic here, for example, that shows some trends. And this is important for management and KPI. So I can see here, like, okay, what is going on with my installation that is increasing the average cycle time month over month. So I can come back to my group, my crew, the head of this department, and say, okay, we need to check what is going on because we are losing control, we are losing time, we need to make something. So well, this is a very, very powerful tool. It is not an easy tool, I can tell. But
there's a lot in there, isn't there?
There is a lot in there, and it cannot be an easy tool. This is the point. Cannot be an easy tool. But the important part is you guys are there to help us. We are not building this graphics ourselves. We basically use your knowledge and your experience and say, okay, I need to see this, and then the data is there. The template is created by your guys, and we can start to track, and it's always like possible. For example, I love this one that I request a couple time ago that was, okay, I need to see a due diligence. I need to see if I select one customer, doesn't matter which one, I want to see what happened with this project day by day. Every single transition when it happens, because when the customer complain about, okay, you are taking too long to finish my project, I need to see what's going on. Every single transition will show me what happened. And this is
like an audit trail at your fingertips almost of a per customer basis. And like and so yeah, mindful kind of with our last 5 minutes. I mean, I love the fact that like we learn, right? We're learning together, and it's a great synergistic relationship where we get to work with you. You all are growing your business. Our job is to fuel and support that. But you know, when you showed me that previously, that audit log, that's something that I haven't seen any other customer do in Looxy, in a really creative way to take the same data, right? The same, everything coming out of that operations hub, but because the way that Looxy is built to basically mold the data in a different way to answer the questions that you need.
This is basically a white Canva, right? This is basically a white Canva. You can do wherever you want.
Yeah, well said. Okay, so if there are, I know we did get a little bit to that glue question, and we actually were talking about, for everyone on the call here today, my goal, Dan, is to get you back in the next few months, and we need to talk more about Glue, more about Looksee, and kind of keep diving into this and keep following your journey, because there's more to cover than what we have in an hour. If there's any final questions, I just feel free to invite them in the Q&A. And Dan, I want to maybe leave us off with one question back to you, which is, I know there's a lot of folks, especially right now in the environment that we're in, that are trying to make that call. Like, do I invest in the operations hub and like really build out these systems, or do I stay with what's worked to get me here? Maybe it's spreadsheets, pen and paper, but like I've kind of been able to like get it to the point where it's here. For those folks who are kind of on that fence of like figuring out how to make or justify or make that decision around the investment, what would be your feedback and advice, having gone through the whole journey?
So it's basically asking if I would be here as we are right now without Scoop, right?
Partially, maybe.
Yeah, I can tell. Well, I would say that as I said in the beginning, there is no perfect platform, there is no perfect software. I couldn't see our company as we are right now without Scoop. Definitely I couldn't see. I probably could find something. I could find another platform. With my experience with software implementation, I would say that it was very, very smooth process. It's never an easy process. It's never like an automatic process. And this is why I will always say, okay, you need to be resilient. You need to have resilience. It's important. You have to find a way to stick to the plan. It will be hard. Yes, it will be hard because you have like personal barriers, users, executives. A lot of guys do not understand how the process goes, and they believe that we are late, we are delaying anything, and it's not going through the right pathway, but takes time. So I couldn't see an option to escalate as we escalate, and you can see the numbers without Scoop. Definitely not. It was a game changing for us.
Well said. Yeah, just one, and maybe I know Lucy and Frida, feel free to jump in, because I know you've been watching the questions as well, and there's been a few that came in. If we don't get to them in the next 2 or 3 minutes, all of them, we'll definitely be able to respond offline. But one really good one, and this is kind of a macro question, is what were some of the things that you were using before Scoop on the ops side? And I know there's probably a long answer to that, but give us like the big picture of like the systems.
This is a very good question, but you are putting me in a very bad place, right? Well, we can go from the piece of paper.
yeah.
Definitely. But mainly I would say spreadsheets, mainly.
Yeah.
We are still using a couple of spreadsheets here and there. And I encourage a couple of users that they need to have a separate specific track for anything on their specific daily basis on their job that we cannot accomplish, and it will be like insane or impossible to do something for everybody. I have a couple of guys using something. But the main point is you cannot rely more in outside controls than on Scoop. So Scoop needs to be your main database. And if you need to leave something on the side, you have to leave aside your spreadsheet or something like that.
Yeah. Well said. Go ahead, Lucy. Anything final from you? A little bit mindful of time.
Well, yeah, I think we can maybe do maybe one more question here, and then just also drawing attention to folks in the room that I put some links in the chat. So if you're not currently using Scoop and you want to touch base with someone on our team, there's a link to do that. And also, we would love to get your feedback on this survey. We want to keep running these events in the future, so keep letting us know what you want to hear and how we're doing. It'll really help us make sure that these speak to you better in the future. With that, we'll go with maybe one more question before we close things off. How are you handling attrition changes and workflow assignments that need to be changed across various or many different scoops?
So say it again, sorry.
Like, how are you handling attrition changes or workflow assignments that are across various different scoops?
So basically what we have to do, you have to draw, in my case, I believe that the main point is you have to draw your main templates. You understand how your templates works. And then you have to see how can you split these templates in stages. Inside of the stages, you will have the specific assignments for every single leader that will be responsible for that step, that micro step. And then it's like a puzzle. And then you connect everything on the right order. So on my case, we create the main stages based on the departments that we have. So we have the design engineering department, the permitting department, the installation department, the inspection department, the PTO, the interconnection department. So we have the micro stages, the macro stages based on the departments. We have the micro steps, the micro stages based on the users. So you can see, I don't know if I'm able to share my screen again very quick.
Yeah, go for it.
So you can see here that when I go to my configuration, I have inside of the...
And I think we don't see your screen quite yet, Dan. So I don't know if you're pulling it up there. No worries. There we go.
Now,
got it.
This is the right one.
Perfect.
Okay. So you can see that we use this strategy. We name the stages with the name of the user in front of the name of the stage. So when we have when you go to everything from the user view, you will be able to see who is the responsible for that stage. We have here, for example, the name of the person that is responsible, the user that is the lead of this stage. So you can control and track the leadership and for the full workflow. I don't know if it answers your question.
And I'll maybe add one small piece around, like, another way that do this that's possible is by using a concept and a feature that we have called multi-role criteria. And so you can actually abstract codifying users into automations and actually do it based on a combination of their role. Are they on the crew? Are they an electrician? Are they a part of this customer's profile? We have a full hour-long internal training video for that. So I know there's some customers kind of asking and inquiring about that. But yeah, I mean, lots to go down there. Lucy, anything else from your side?
Yeah, I think we still have people in the room. So if those that want to cut out because you have a hard deadline, then go for it. But maybe we'll just do one more for those that are able to stay a couple minutes late, just so that I know we have a couple questions here. So what CRM software do you currently use, and also what design software?
So we use Aurora for design. We changed it from SolarGraph 3 years ago based on accuracy. And we are very, very happy with the results. We lost a lot of money with like production warranty in the past, and now with Aurora, we are very comfortable with. We tried other options, Solo or other open source softwares, but we are stick with Scoop. We are stick with Aurora. And CRM is something that we are still developing something. We implemented a software called Minsky, that is a software from Texas, more to the front end. It's more like opportunities control, pricification, and we have right now a glue interface between Scoop and Minsky. So when we convert an opportunity to a project, that when we start to use Scoop on our internal process workflow, these will be backfeeding Minsky, showing to the sales rep and what is the stages, what is the status, bringing updates. So Minsky and Aurora are our two tools from CRM and design.
Terrific. I'm squeaking in one last one. I keep saying that, but do you find more workflows per app to be more efficient rather than less?
Yeah, this is a very good question.
That's why I wanted to sneak it in there.
Yeah. So you will find like Scoops, big stages that you can have a very good answer with small Scoops, with small stages. But unfortunately for others are not that simple. For example, for the installation that I showed you guys, it's a very complex because we have a couple situations. For example, when we finish the install and the install was not according to the design and engineering plans, because I don't know, we had obstructions, we couldn't install exactly like that. We have a hiccup. We need to come back to engineering, redo the engineering. You have to redo the permit. We have to basically bring the full workflow from engineering, the full workflow from permit inside of the installation. So a couple scoops, a couple macro stages will be a little bit more complex than others. And this is something that we are always changing and reviewing and improving. But you can definitely start drawing. This was my start point. Draw your workflow and put names, put users, put responsibles, and draw as a flow chart. And then you will just grab this inside of the tool. It's pretty easy, but it will depends. It will depends. Sometimes I prefer the easy ones, but sometimes it's not possible.
That's great. Thank you. Very insightful. Tyrell, I think we're done for questions, but I'll pass it back to you maybe for some final remarks.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you, everyone. My highlights from today, Dan, going back to some of the things that you said is, keys to like the operations hub that's helped you, you and Sunlight really almost, 10x your growth. Communications, both internal and to the customer, are critical, right? You've got to be able to do that. Workflows that you can codify and build and start to like automate some of the handoffs and communications. Having a place where all the data is organized, like one place, a central repository. And then I think the two bonus ones, or at least the one bonus one, is having that configuration side so that the operations team and the sales ops team and the sales leadership team can make changes, right? Can continue to evolve the process. And I actually really like that one that you just mentioned. So I'll throw it in as the last one, which is that ability to draw out your workflows and then translate those into the kind of tactical execution steps in Scoop, I think, or whatever the operations hub is really good. Just practice.
Can you give you one more bonus?
Please give me a bonus.
So one of the softwares that we test before using Scoop, we got stuck because we have tons of technicians on the field that they need to upload a lot of information. They have to upload mainly photos, videos, documents, this kind of thing. And unfortunately, sometimes these guys are not in good internet channel areas. And it was hard because they were like saving everything on their phones. And then after fact, they had to go back and identify photos. Okay, which one is this? Which customer is this from their library? And they were taking a lot of time to identify these photos and provide information for us. As I will not mention, but as a couple like very famous softwares in the market. And Scoop has a very, very good bonus on this way. That is the offline functionality. So awesome. You have a database. Yeah, you have a database sync, but your mobile app, you will download everything. You will be able to read information from the customer, to access files if you don't have access to internet at that point. You can upload all this information that you were, like photos that you were taking. And as soon as you have connection with the internet, you will sync the database and everything comes live. So that's such
a good one to end on, Dan, because I think like I sometimes naturally jump to like the really complex, the juicy use cases, but like, look, at the end of the day, what you just said, nothing gets done if that doesn't get done and done properly and done well the first time. So
mainly if your user, your technician do not feel comfortable using the platform, you have to provide them tools to work properly. And this is definitely something very, very important.
Well said. Dan, thank you so much for giving all of us your time and your experience and your expertise. I mean, we really appreciate it. I know this will not be the last time that you and I get to do this, but just want to say a heartfelt thank you for your time.
My pleasure. My pleasure. I will be always very happy to and glad to help.
Awesome. Okay, take care, everyone. Stay safe. Wishing you all the best.
Thank you.
Bye.